All right, so I'm going to tackle a project of refinishing the inside of the fuel tank on this 1985 535i. It is all rusted out inside, keeps clogging filters and strainers and such. So going to tackle that. Instead of replacing it, which is really expensive, I decided to use this POR-15 fuel tank repair kit. So we will see how that goes. Got good reviews. First thing I did was get the car up on ramps. I'm going to try to do this without using jack stands and having to take the wheel off over here. We'll see how that goes. Don't know yet if I'm gonna have enough clearance. First thing after that was to disconnect the battery. Always want to do that when you're working around fuel systems. Once I got that done, I then disconnected the fuel line that goes into the external fuel pump. Let's see if I can get a good shot of that. So there's the fuel pump up there disconnected. And the line just hanging down. I used a bucket underneath here. My thought was to siphon out the fuel that's left. I did burn off a lot of the fuel. That really should be step one. Drive around until you get a lot of the fuel out of there so that you don't have to worry about dealing with it after you take it out, because it's going to be pretty nasty, I think, just given the fact the tank is all rusted. So yeah, drive around. I did put some seafoam in too, just to run some of that through. And then so when I disconnected that line, it didn't really siphon out hardly anything. So I went ahead and came up here, disconnected the fuel gauge and the fuel pump connectors, the electrical connectors, and then disconnect these fuel lines right here. After that, I then removed this baffle, that black part right there that was surrounding the gas cap here, the filler neck. It's really brittle, kind of broke when I took it out a little bit. I'll see if I can find a replacement. But I did that because I have to get in here and disconnect all those vent lines there. So those are just little hose clamps, and then pry the line off. And that is about it. So I'm gonna record this in stages like this, not as I go every step, just because I'm figuring it out as I go and I don't want to tell you to do something and then it turns out to be the wrong thing. So what I'm gonna try next is actually then disconnecting or unbolting the tank from underneath the car. So that is the next thing I'm going to try. Okay, so under here we got, I think that's a 17 millimeter over there. Should be too hard to get to. And then there's one around here, right there. And then there's one that is right over in there on that side of the tank. That one will be a little bit harder too. I'm going to have to get under there, get these stands out of the way, and loosen that one first. And then hopefully it'll just drop down. I'm not positive yet. There is a small, I don't know what, 10 millimeter screw or bolt right. So I can find it on camera. Sorry, right there. See that back in there? You can give it the focus. I don't know that that's really necessary to come out before I drop the tank. I'm going to look at some pictures online of a tank dropped already and see if that's just a part that's attached to the tank itself. Also, looks like, is that potentially a drain screw right there? I don't know. I may be able to drain some fuel out right there. Just noticed that without having to worry about any extra weight. So definitely look into that. All right, well, that does appear to be a drain plug. It's a T30 Torx bit, but it is so hard to turn that thing. I'm afraid I'm going to strip it out, so I'm just going to leave it. I don't have that much fuel in the tank, so I'm just going to drain it through the top of the tank. So, all right, so there's an exhaust hanger right here that will, if we lower the exhaust, it'll be a lot easier to get to that bolt. I was able to get it with a long torque wrench because the handle comes out here, but it's still really difficult. I'd rather use an impact driver to run it out instead of doing 2 clicks at a time. And also, I think we're going to have this dropped in order to get this out because of this flange that wraps over the top like that. So might as well get the exhaust out of the way. I'm going to replace the hangers anyway. They're cracked. They're like $2, and I've already got one missing down there. So, you know, like $8 you can get 2 or 3 of these things all in. So yeah, it's worth it. Instead of I was trying to lift this over and get it off of the hanger, but I thought, well, that's stupid. I'm just going to cut it off of there, cut the hanger, just because I'm replacing them anyway. Save some time. All right, so got the bolt out that's here at the front of the tank. It's barely fits between the sway bar and this little heat shield, or whatever this shield is here. But it does come out. If you'll notice, right here is a sway bar mount that is the tank lip is resting on. See that? I'm thinking that once I get the 2 bolts out toward the back of the car, that this will just kind of slip out from underneath there and I don't have to remove the sway bar. So that is the plan. Okay, so I took out the 2 bolts here at the back, and this having a jack here with a 2x4 on it, spread it out, worked really well. The whole tank is now just sitting here. So at this point, I'm gonna try to drop it down here. Probably shouldn't be doing this with one hand on a camera, but let's just see what happens. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we have to get it. There's probably hung up on that sway bar mount that I showed you a minute ago. All right, so funny thing, I've got it almost out. The exhaust definitely has to come down, so you got to take that hanger off so the exhaust can drop pretty far down. Just the back hanger though, so far it's doing okay with the others. I shouldn't say that. I've got one missing down there, so I think you'd probably be okay with just the one hanger off. What's funny is the gas cap here is hanging up on the quarter panel. So I'm gonna try to get that gas cap off of there. That's the only thing holding it right now in place. And then it'll come down. So overall, it's really not too bad. Okay, with that, this thing is ready to come out and work on it. So putting it back will just be the reverse, which I'm not looking forward to, except that it will have a little less fluid because there is some fluid in here. So I don't know, 10 pounds lighter when it goes back in. And that is kind of there's a rubber piece hanging down here. There's just some padding, I guess insulation stuff that goes on top. Those should have been probably stuck to the tank, and they kind of stuck to the body. And then when we put it back in, we got to be careful. All those lines go up through there properly. So probably have to have someone up there feeding those, make sure they go where they need to go. And that's it. So now on to the actual cleaning of the gas tank. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is take out the old in-tank fuel pump by removing all these bolts here, and then the fuel cylinder has its own nuts here. So I will take the cylinder out first, that typically works best, and then it leaves room for the fuel pump bracket and everything to come out at an angle. Done that a couple of times because I've had to replace this pump a couple of times. So we'll do that now. All right, so that is what the fuel cylinder looks like. It runs your fuel gauge. So take that out, put it over here for now. And then we'll take these bolts out here. And honestly, if you're ever just replacing the fuel pump, I would take these out before you remove the cylinder, just so you don't accidentally drop a bolt inside the tank. Since I'm going to be cleaning my tank out, I don't really care that much right now, but just pro tip. All right, with those bolts out of the way, we'll now take this, and there's a gasket underneath it. So you'll see there's a slot there you can line things up with. Kind of twist it out as you go. You have to rotate it where the wide parts line up with those little slots, so you can twist it out at the right angle. So here's what's been happening with mine. See how nasty that thing is? Dark looking. It's full of rust. And this is the second one I've gone through. Kind of bought myself some time putting this in, knowing that it's going to clog again. I'll get a flashlight here to show you what mine looks like. By the way, here's a replacement little pillow. I'll tell you where to get those too. But here's what mine looks like inside. It looks like you're at the beach. So pretty nasty in there. All sorts of debris. So that's what we're going to clean out and make it look like new, hopefully. So we'll quit clogging strainers, and I'm also going to replace the fuel filter. I already did when I bought the car 6-8 months ago, but you know, feeding this kind of crud through it, it's probably a good idea to replace it again since we're going all new here. So, all right, on with the actual dumping of the fuel into a bucket, and then we'll start the whole POR-15 clean out process. Okay, so here's what's included in the kit. What I'm going to do is pan over the instructions so you can pause the video if you want to really read it in detail, but just so you can kind of see. Oops, there we go. All right, so with that out of the way, we can jump in here. Okay, so the first step is to empty the tank of all the fuel, which I just did. Poured it into a 5-gallon bucket. I had about 3 or 4 gallons of fuel in there left. I rinse out with clean water, remove fuel, pick on, float, filters, fittings. So yeah, pretty much taking out the fuel pump and the cinder like we did is all there is to remove there. So we'll go ahead and rinse it out with water. I mixed the first container of degreaser with 1 quart of warm water and put it inside here. Also got a lot of the excess dirt off of this tank, just 40 years of dirt built up. I'm not going to try to refinish the tank and make it look pretty because you don't really see it much. But anyway, I also bought a chain here, put it in here so you can shake it around. It'll bang around and get a lot of the loose stuff off. Alright, so then I'm going to put tape over the hole. Sorry. Clean this up real good where tape would stick to it. So tape that off, and then shake it around a bunch and go from there. Wow, this is what came out of the tank. That's what the first round of using the degreaser. So now I'm going to rinse it out with water and then put in the second jug of degreaser with another quart of warm water. And I hope it comes out looking a lot cleaner than this. That's pretty bad. That's why my fuel strainer was getting clogged driving around. So pretty ridiculous. Anyway, all right. All right, here's the second round of degreaser with warm water. Pour that in there. Oops. Pretty much fill a pitcher with 1 quart of warm water and then pour in the degreaser and then pour it all in here. What I did also is tape off these breather lines with some duct tape and just kind of make sure you get it, clean these off and then wrap it on there real tight. Otherwise it will leak, like I found out. So you're tipping it all around. It needs to be on there really good. All right, time to slosh this around. And so what I'm doing is got a timer for 30 minutes and I just rotate it all around as much as I can for, you know, whatever, a couple of minutes, let it sit, do it again, a couple of minutes. Just every few minutes, rotate it all around during that 30-minute period. And believe me, it's a workout. Yesterday I did the first round and I'm feeling it today. So, yeah, so, all right, here we go. All right, so I did the 2 rounds of the degreaser and then rinsed the tank out really thoroughly. And the next step now is to then drain that water as much as possible. I even let it sit like this to let it collect at the bottom and then pour it out one more time. It doesn't have to be bone dry, it says, just gotta get most of it out of there. And then the next step is this metal prep, which you pour inside all of it. Then you rotate the tank every 30 minutes, try to let it coat all parts of it inside, which will be kind of hard to know. I've got a scope I could probably put in there that might help me see if I've got it all coated, but without that, maybe a mirror and a flashlight may be the best thing to do. All right, so I just got done rinsing out the metal prep part, and inside it is looking a lot better. Look at that. Let me get the focus here. There we go. That is insane. It was completely rust covered before. Now there's some stuff in the upper half of the clamshell, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do much about that. But yeah, no, I'm not sure whether to be concerned about that or not. Anyway, bottom half is certainly cleaner. That's just nuts. I did not think it would look that good without even coating it in something. So pretty cool. Right now I am drying out the tank. I rinsed it out a bunch with a hose after I did the warm water wash. Yeah, you're supposed to rinse it out with warm water first, and then after that I just used a hose and continually flushed it out. And I'm drying it, so it's super important to make sure every bit of water is out of there. So I've got a heat gun just aimed into the hole there, and a screwdriver keeping the fillet open so that it ventilates. And then after that's the last step, which is putting in the actual coating that goes on. I'd say I was kind of disappointed that there was some kind of black stuff still on the sides a little bit, but it was obviously on there hard enough that I don't believe it's going to come off in the gasoline and crud up the filters like the other, the bottom of it was just so bad and lots of loose rust. So hopefully the coating, the paint will stick to whatever is left on the sides of the tank. It's kind of a risk I'm willing to take at this point, because short of buying a whole new kit or more degreaser and putting the chain back in and shaking it a ton more, I don't know that I'm going to get really anything else out of there with the steps I already followed. So we'll see. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty time-consuming thing here to get this dried out. Also, I'll say that this whole project you can do in a weekend. I got the car over there jacked up, and from start to where I'm at now, you're talking it's a few hours of work nonstop. I mean, you could probably have this thing coated with the new paint all on the same day, rather than taking it out and cleaning it. So I think it's easily a weekend job if you've got time to dedicate to it. So not too bad. So the drying is done. Only took about probably 30 minutes to get in there and get everything dried out. Here's kind of how it looks. So get a wide angle. There we go. So pretty good. Like I say, there's that black stuff, but it is not coming off easily. So I'm just not going to worry too much about it. So the next thing is they say to immediately coat it. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit, but just for fear of any kind of rust forming on bare metal, want to get the final coating on quickly. One thing I'm really wondering about is these breather tubes here. They're small enough that I'm thinking paint could clog those completely. I guess worst case, I can put a pipe cleaner down it. So when I roll it around and get paint up in there, I don't know what I should really do there. I think I'm probably just gonna tape them off like I did before. Then maybe when I'm all done rolling it around, maybe the last thing is take the tape off and tip it over and let any excess in here run out so that it's not just sitting in there. Or maybe compressed air in this way, but I hate to blow the paint off of where it's coated, so I'll have to think about that a bit here. Also, one of the things in the instructions, a good tip, when you put the paint inside here, it's gonna get all over the threads where the bolts go here for the fuel pump. So I'm probably gonna just thread these in here just to have the holes covered up. I still got that tape over this to keep paint from sloshing out, and the bolt heads are going to make that a little hard to get a good seal with the duct tape. So anyway, I guess I could probably go ahead and coat the whole thing, take the tape off, and then run these in and out so that it cleans it out right away. I don't know. Think about that here. So I decided to go ahead and tape these off like I did before, and I took the screws out. I'm just gonna use a funnel here to put the fluid in, keep this real clean, and then that'll give me a nice surface to put tape over as I'm rolling the tank around. Those screw heads were gonna make it where it would probably have leaked everywhere when I did that. So I'll just put the screws in after I'm all done and the paint's still wet so that those holes are cleaned out. So the threads are cleaned out, that is. So I'm using one of these paint mixer bits you can put on your drill. So you're supposed to mix it until it's a uniform color. But man, I cannot get this black stuff to mix in completely. It's like it's somewhere on the can, maybe. It keeps pulling in. Let's see what I mean here. You see it drawing from the edges. When you stop, it's like you'll see what I mean, kind of just, it's still there. Never wants to fully mix. So I think I'm gonna call it good. I've been doing this for a while. Definitely wouldn't want to use a stirring stick and do this by hand. Definitely recommend getting one of these paint mixer attachments. So here's what the bottom of the can looks like after I poured it all in. There's definitely some gunk in there, that really thick crud, the paint that just did not want to mix. It sat at the bottom of the can for a really long time. So be sure you get down deep when you're mixing it. So I put all the paint in and then taped it off really good. Probably the most important time to get the tape on there good, because you don't want that leaking on yourself. That POR-15 paint is incredibly hard to get off of your skin if you get it on there. So now what I'm gonna do is use a flashlight and a mirror and look inside there to see if I got the whole surface coated, all the sides. So I got it coated pretty good. There's a little spot on the roof right about in here that I've got to tilt it around some more. But you can definitely see where it didn't mix that black in. So maybe it just takes a lot of mixing in the can, I don't know. But overall, you can say it coated it pretty good. So I will do the light and my phone at the same time, but you get the, here we go, get the idea on the kind of job it did. All right, I'll put some more tape on and slosh it around some more. So we'll let that sit there for a while. Honestly, I'm not sure how long to wait. I guess until it's just appears to have stopped. I don't want it to like run off of the tank and not coat it well, but you're also supposed to not let it pool up. So what I'll do is probably just check inside in a minute and make sure I don't need to pour any of this back in there to recoat something. I can't imagine it just running off of the surface though. It sticks really well to stuff. Well, that is it. Put the screws back in here to keep the threads clear of paint, and took the paint off of these vent holes. I never did see any paint come through those. Now that I see how they route internally, it kind of makes sense. I don't know, there's some long tubes that go from here all the way across here. If paint got in those and is sitting there, I don't have a way to really know that. I'm probably gonna end up tilting this on its side so that if anything, it can run out of those drain tubes, or those vent tubes. That's what the best I can do with those. It would take a really long pipe cleaner to get all the way down in there to ensure they're clear. That's the only thing that's a little odd with this process for this tank. All right, so it dawned on me that all I have to do is really just put a piece of rubber tubing on these things and blow in the end of it and make sure the line's clear. Or you can just put your mouth on there, but all the cleaner junk I put on there the last day or two. Better to use a little piece of tubing. Also, I did notice that there is some, I don't have my flashlight with me, is some paint pooling up down there at the bottom when I tilt it like this, so I am gonna have to drain that one more time so it doesn't pool up too badly. But I'll probably give it another 20-30 minutes, see if it'll finish doing that before I dump it. So anyway, now we gotta let it dry for 4 days before you can put any fuel in it. So it's just gonna basically sit here and air out. I'll probably check it later to see if any paint has pooled up any more, since it kind of drips from the ceiling, downward, and then I may drain some of that out. But that's about all I plan to do for 4 days. Also waiting on some new fuel line and fuel filter to get here. Just gonna kind of revamp everything at the back of the car, just so I know everything is clean and new. And that's it. We'll be putting this thing back in, just the reverse of how we took it out. So I'm not gonna videotape that whole process. Hopefully this was helpful. If you got any questions, put it in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. All right, thanks a lot.